Okay, a couple of other things that we have left. For this one, you have the square root of x over x. Can't work it the way that it is because it has the radical in it, so you have to change it to fractional exponents. So that would be an x to the 1/2 over x. And again, I got the x to the 1/2 from your algebra rules that says if you have a radical, a square root radical, the 2, the index, is this denominator of your fractional exponent. Now I still can't work it that way, or I guess I could if I use the quotient rule. You're welcome to use the quotient rule here. But the easiest way to work it is to actually use exponent rules back from algebra. So remember, my exponent rules say I subtract my exponents. When I subtract the exponents, I get 1 and a 1/2. So if you use your exponent rules, x to the 1/2 minus 1 would give me an x to the negative 1/2 in the top. So the way I got that again was I said 1/2 minus 1. So that would be 1/2 minus 2/2, which would give me an exponent of negative 1/2. Now, I haven't done any calculus, I just simplified it using algebra. So now I'm ready for the calculus portion. So I'm going to bring down my exponent, so that's negative 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 minus 1. So that's negative 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 minus 2/2, which would be a negative 3/2. Cleaning this up, we get a negative 1 over 2 x to the 3/2. So a negative exponent in the top moves to the bottom, and that's how that one would look. Okay, your last one is another quotient rule. So I didn't do many of those earlier, so I wanted to do one more of them. I recognize it to be a quotient rule. You have a high function. Your high function is t. D high would be 1. The derivative of t is just 1. Your low function is t squared plus 1, and d low would be 2t. Okay, remember your quotient rule starts low. Low, d high, minus high, d low, all over low squared. Okay, so this one's not too bad. When I'm simplifying, I'm just going to distribute 1, and of course that would just give me t squared plus 1 over here on the left. T times 2t would give me a negative 2t squared, and that's over t squared plus 1 squared, and it is commonplace to leave that in the squared format. You don't have to FOIL that out. Finishing this up, 1t minus 2t would give me a negative t squared plus 1 over t squared plus 1 squared. And that's how it would look.